folks. Doing 10 seconds of silence, and Candy's making fart noises
I'm
with
not
her
making
chair.
fart noises. It is the chair.
They are fart noises.
I'm looking for something, and I can't find it. But whatever.
Well, folks, we are coming towards the big day. Reese's graduation party's coming up this week, and her graduation to follow. We're tired. We're exhausted. We've been working.
It's not just because of our party. We're putting in a freaking garden. We always have to get it takes us so much work to get our yard ready.
Yes.
Because we have a pool.
Yeah, and cleaning out all
ready.
the winter storage and getting everything spruced up. So we are going to have a fun one tonight.
Okay.
We're just going to have a conversation. I'm going to throw out some topics. Hopefully it'll spark something. And hopefully we can go on for 50 minutes, an hour, and get some information down. It's something Candy's always dreamed of, recording our conversations and putting them out to the world so our children would have something to listen to when we're dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. Pretty good. No?
No comment. Very good.
That's why I do karaoke all the time. So we're getting through this, and then we're going to start transitioning our podcast into something a little different. Different backgrounds, different studio, stuff like that. Had children move
coming
out
soon?
It'll be coming up here after the next few weeks. So
okay, I'm just saying, what's the plan on getting that ready?
Well, we're just going to kind of work it through and see what happens. Sorry about the farty noises.
I don't even know if they can hear them on the microphone. It's my chair. I promise.
So we're going to be doing some adjustments and upgrading and revamping how things look and sound in here. And I'll actually have some time to fool around on the editing of everything. So
you can actually put some creative effort into this.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, other than just our two faces smiling and talking at you. There might be something else coming to you.
What?
So,
what the hell? I don't even know what's going on.
And then it'd be an explosion coming out of the top of your head. So we are going to go into it today. We're just going to talk about stuff, life in general, see what happens. And as general, it'll probably get some religious connotation in there at some point or another. Maybe it won't. But you know what? That's what you're here for, because we talk about life.
Yeah.
Just living life and dealing with all of that good stuff.
So you're kind of saying how we want it was just what we want to kind of shift to. It's just like Dan and Can instead of Drop the Stones, which is just spiritual talk. We kind of want it to just be.
And spiritual talk will always be part of it.
Yeah.
And that's it, because we can't get away from it.
Yeah.
All our conversations end up getting some sort of.
But it does. Spirituality affects all of your life. If it's real spirituality, it kind of does.
It's almost like God's getting to be part of all of our life.
Yeah. All the things that we were told in Christianity. But
we'll talk about it today on Drop the Stones.
Hi, I'm Candy.
And I'm Dan.
And you're listening to Drop the Stones,
a weekly podcast that is going through some changes.
It's going through puberty.
It's puberty.
Puberty. As I'm going through perimenopause, it's going through puberty.
Yeah. So we got all sorts of changes going on in the house. It's a good time. And today, this episode of Drop the Stones is brought to you by Holy Hell Candles. The only candle scented like guilt, incense, and your repressed teenage fantasies. Whether you're trying to summon closure, exercise your parents' doctrine, or just mask the stench of your crumbling faith, Holy Hell's got your back. Light one up, say a prayer, and watch your belief system melt like purity culture on a prom night. Use code HERESY69 for 10% off of your first confession.
Wow. Gotta get me a Holy Hell candle.
Yeah, and smell like sulfur.
Ew.
Pig farts all throughout
I don't like
house.
that smell.
It's all good. So, all right. I did have one thing that an idea to throw past you. And this may die a quick death. Maybe I can perk something in you.
Okay, what?
I was observing the dog the other day. Good old Hales. And I was sitting here, and I know we've talked about this before, and Sophie's mentioned it before, our old editor, but pets sleep a ton.
Yeah.
Like 20 hours a day.
Yeah, they
if
sleep
not
quite
more.
a bit.
And then they just kind of, Haley is high strung and wired, so she's barely asleep, but she's sleeping. If anyone cracks a floorboard or opens
or
a
if
door.
you come and give me a kiss or a hug, then she's like barks, which is resource guarding, I think.
It is.
That's
definitely
not good.
So she's constantly alert, but sleeping too.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder, humans are animals also. And this thing seems like it's common throughout all of animal kingdom.
They rest a lot. Is that what you're kind of implying? Okay.
Why do we think it's natural and normal to work 8+ hours a day, 40 hours plus a week?
And we think someone's lazy who doesn't?
And 52 weeks a year. Maybe you get a couple weeks of vacation in there, but a lot of times on that vacation, one of them might be a trip, one of them or a couple others might be working on something in your house.
Or a business trip where you're actually doing business, not like some of these, like some billionaires' business kind of trips, where they're.
It seems that it's just not natural. And I think there's some reasons why it's become this way. And it's a lot to do with systems that are in place, control, manipulation, all the good stuff that we always talk about on this. And it's taken us away from the natural. And that's why people just seem always exhausted. Angry, frustrated, stressed, anxious.
That's why stress is one of the leading causes of a lot of issues that people have. Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies out there. Other countries have gone to a 4-day work week, or maybe it's 4 10-hour days if they still want to do the 40. Some have dropped it down to 36. And honestly, 40 was dropped down in, when was that, 20s, 30s?
So what did it used to be before that?
It was unlimited. People were working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. They might have Sunday mornings off for church, but after church, they're supposed to let people, and then
I bet you
labor laws came into effect. I'm going to take
a crack at this, that conservatives wanted to keep it like it was and progressives pushed it forward.
I can't remember exactly, but I think so.
It's almost always progressives are what push us in ways that the humanity gets some sort of enjoyment.
Yeah, it was labor laws,
better life,
unionization, the beginning of it in America and all that. That started cracking down because they were. Studies are shown, at work, I like to take a nap over my lunch. Now, full disclosure, I'm scheduled from 7 to 3:30 every day at work. From 11:30 to noon, we are technically off the clock, so it's my time.
Do whatever you want,
take
set
a nap.
An alarm,
And I eat during my other breaks, my 15-minute breaks in the morning and afternoon. So it's my time I do it. And what I found, I've been doing it for a few years now, is I used to be just dragging ass in the afternoon, getting to the end of the day. And some days I'd be working till 4, 5, 6 at night. So putting in a 10-hour day. In the last few hours, you just be like, oh, I just want to get home, just to sit down and relax. I was very unproductive at home after them days.
Yeah.
And then I realized if I just took a little 20, 30-minute nap in the middle of the day, I had more energy to get through the rest of the workday and a little bit at home too. So there's some benefit to this rest, just getting that natural.
Don't they do something like that in Mexico or something?
Yeah.
Where they have a siesta? There
was that TikTok you sent me the other day, I think it was Italy.
Yeah.
Where it was just a completely different work system that this factory was using. It was I think they were clothing. They were making some sort of.
I don't think I watched this TikTok in full if I sent, because this doesn't sound familiar, but go ahead.
But they're talking about, people would take vacations just regularly. And there wasn't a set amount of vacations they could take. the bosses just said, hey, if people want to take off for a week, that's fine. They understand. They're not going to work. They're not going to get paid for that.
Oh, they just don't get paid.
But
their job is still there.
Yeah, their job's still there, and they're fine. And they might give them a couple weeks paid, but you could take off 8 weeks in a year and get paid for 3 or 4. I don't know for sure, but then people are like, oh, yeah, it's great. It's great for our health. We love working here.
Maybe it did, yeah.
We can go to the beach and enjoy the beach whenever we want. That's healthy. It rejuvenates us, and we enjoy it. And the boss is like, yeah, it's fine. I want my people happy and healthy. And they were, they didn't work a ton during the day and stuff like that. They went home for lunch. All of them, they closed basically the factory down, went home for lunch, and made a home-cooked meal.
Ah, yes, I remember
because
that,
it was a 2-hour lunch break that they got every day.
I do remember
to sit down with their family and eat lunch.
When I was homeschooling the kids, we learned about that. I think it was France where we learned it. So it's probably kind of a European thing.
Yeah.
And they let them go home for like a 2-hour lunch, and then you came back and finished school.
The thing is that all these studies that show this stuff, this reduced work week and all this, shows more productivity.
Yeah, it's kind
out of the workforce.
Yeah.
Because people are more rested.
So it's like America, it's not about because if studies have shown that you're more productive when you have an enjoyable life, you get some rest, you're not just working like crazy all the time. Hustle culture is what, I've heard it called. And I know there is this trend that's pushing back against hustle culture, which is good. As an entrepreneur, I know what it feels like to feel like you need to be working, hustling, but I'm also trying not to give into that because that just kills the spirit, kills the creativity. I'm not chasing the money. It's got to be, the money is part of it, just so I can provide, but it's more like I need to enjoy it or it's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But there's this push against it, which is good, which probably is the way we're going to end up going, which hopefully, but so why in America, if it's not about productivity, like they'll say it's about productivity, but it's not, it can't be if studies show that that's not what gets the most production.
At one point, there's always been, I hear people talk about buying cars. They say never buy a car that's made on Monday or Friday. And you can tell on the VIN number, there's a day of the week that it was actually on the production line. Because Monday, you're coming off a weekend and they're cloudy and they're not in the right mind.
Do they make a whole car in one day?
Well, kind of going through the production line and stuff.
Okay.
So they're saying don't buy them on them Mondays, and the Fridays they're looking forward to the weekend, so they're just trying to get out. So you want to buy cars made on
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday,
because that's when you're going to get the best work out of the employees there. But I think the whole reason for not realizing this is just the conservative mindset.
The conservative mindset is what holds us back.
Yeah, because this is the way it's always been. This is what's worked for us for 40 years. And you hear these people that are extremely nationalistic and conservative, and you tell them, hey, see, some of these things are working in other countries. Well, fuck them countries. America, USA, USA, USA. We're number one. We're number one. We're the best. And it's like, but you got to understand what's happening. These other countries are having people being more productive, more affluent, healthier, enjoying life better. They're happier.
Don't these people... Like, I'm thinking of our parents, because they would kind of answer. I don't know why your dad popped in my head, but I could see him kind of responding that way, like whatever about these other countries.
He did, because dog farts are causing global warming.
Do we talk about that on the podcast?
I think so.
Anyways, so wouldn't he like to have a 4-week workday, or not because he works less now because he is very part-time because he's retired. I mean, he's 80.
Yeah.
Does he not want that because he didn't get that, so he doesn't want that? Is that part of it too? I don't want you guys to have, I want my kids to have a better life than me.
Yeah.
But I don't know that my parents want me to have a better life than them.
Yours don't.
No, I'm not going to say my mom. I would say my mom does, but I don't think my dad does. To be fair, I'm just being completely honest. I do not think he wants us to have a better life than he has.
There's a lot of your family that wants you to suffer.
Okay.
So you get driven to your knees and come back to God.
Right. Okay. Outside of that, let's say I'm a Christian still. I don't think that my parents, actually, this may be a kind of a conservative thing. I don't think the parents necessarily want the children to outdo them in comfort, wealth. Do they want them to outdo them, or do they want them to just do what they did?
I think you kind of got to do it on an individual basis.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's going to be some parents that want more for their kids. And then you got some that are like, no.
Yeah. And it kind of depends on what you want more of. Like, do I want my kids to be more financially free? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But do I want them to, is that more important than healthy relationships? No. I think a healthy relationships all around is best, because then you have that support group. But I do want them to be financially healthier.
And you think about the older people and they see the younger generations that don't stick with a job for more than 5 years.
Yeah, they don't like that.
And they'll say stuff. I remember seeing a video one time where a guy was like, all right, I'm making, whatever it was, $80,000 a year. And I went in to get a raise, and they said, no, you're staying at 80,000. He goes, that's fine. And then he figured, all right, so I know, and he valued his time at what I do if I did my maximum would be worth $100,000 a year. So I'm going to take 20% off of that, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them $80,000 worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
And they came up and they said, hey, what's happening here? Why is this decreased, your productivity? He goes, you're only paying me $80,000. And the cost of living has gone up and everything else. So I'm giving you $80,000 worth of work. It's not fair for you to expect the same output and pay me less for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And, conservatives were just going nuts on that. This is what's wrong with these kids nowadays. They have no appreciation for.
But the boomers and probably older Gen X worked their asses off, and they resented their employers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They weren't like, I don't remember my parents being like, I love my boss. He's so great.
But it was a different economy too. Because they could hate their employers, but one person could work.
They still went on vacations.
And were able to afford a house, a car, send their kids to colleges, go on vacations in the summers.
Not always. Like my parents weren't able to do that, but we had less.
Yeah. But you had more arrows in the quiver.
Yeah, there's a lot more kids. That's true.
But so they're trying to compare that to now, and these kids are like, no, I would love to be able to afford a house and a car and be able to go on vacations and all that off one income, but I can't do it at $80,000 because there's not enough money in there to pay off everything that you think should be paid off. Mm-hmm. You got people like Dave Ramsey saying, well, everyone should own five.
Job.
Should own 5 houses, and
he's so callous and so out of touch. Like some of the things he says are helpful, I'm sure. And we've used some of the things he has said, but he also says things like, just work when your children are little. If the father is working all the time, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And gone all the time like this, is that better? Yeah, you get out of the debt maybe, but you didn't even see your kids grow up.
Yeah.
But I guess to him, it's more about the money.
The silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. Start playing that for Dave.
We could get deducted. No, wait, we're not making any money.
No,
we get in trouble for singing. Can you sing it?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you can.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you can sing any song you want on air. I don't think so.
Let's be honest. No one's coming after us for copyright issues.
That's true.
So I'm not too worried about singing whatever. So, but yeah, so there's this push for work. And I think, like we're talking, it doesn't make sense because studies have shown people are more productive the work is higher quality that's done on less hours.
Yeah.
So you're getting a better product, and since you're only working 36 hours, 32 hours, you might not get as many products, but it's a much better quality because people are working better for you. Instead, we got this mindset of, no, we got to quantity, push it out, no matter how cheap or crappy it is, we got to get it out.
Yeah. Then we have consumerism out
the American way, and it diminishes your product and your reputation, but by golly, we're selling a shit ton of it, so let's keep pushing it out. And so the studies are out there showing, it's better this way, but we're dragging our feet. We don't want to do it. Conservatives want to hold on to it. And I think there's a reason for it. And it goes back to the initial premise of, were we meant to work? I don't think we were. We're kind of,
Well, work, yes, in little bits.
Yeah,
but,
in bits here and there, but not sustain.
It shouldn't be like
workday.
our main. I think like animals, like you're saying, they do. There's a lot of, they'll do things, they'll go foraging for food or whatever they do, but then there's a lot of rest, especially in the heat of the day. There's a lot of rest.
Which is when most people are working.
Yeah, that's when, so we just invent air conditioners so we can keep on working, which I'm not going to complain about having an air conditioner. Obviously, that's helpful, but I agree. And it's like, do I think we need to sleep as much? No, I think, probably 7 to 9, I think that's good. But resting and sleeping are different. Like, you could be doing something enjoyable, you know what I'm saying? Rather than, take, for instance, working out in the garden. That is not easy work. There's a lot of work that's hard, but it's enjoyable because it's not like, and I'm not working for money. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing something, or like when you're making your beer, it's something that you're doing because you enjoy it, and you're making something. It's a hobby, right? Those people should be able to do way more of. Now, some people have hobbies, but I know a lot of people who have no hobbies whatsoever. Yeah. So they go to work. And then they come home and they do their, they kind of have their morning routine and then their evening routine, and they go to sleep and they go around and do it all over again. But they're only looking forward to the weekends so they can go out and get intoxicated to forget their troubles from the week. And then, so they do that on their Friday night and maybe their Saturday night, and then their Sunday they spend recovering, or Saturday's housework and then partying, or you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, and then they do it all over again. And it's an endless cycle of like drudgery, really, trying to escape it, then having to go back into it, and if it was a little more relaxed like that, life would be much more enjoyable and people would be happier with one another. Like, I don't understand why anybody would resist that unless they either A, don't want other people to have something they didn't get, talking about like boomers, or they just want people, like billionaires, I guess, trying to like, I don't know how that benefits them. How does it benefit them? They can make more money off of and is it really about money? I know people are saying they just want more money, but I don't think that's it. What is it?
It's above the money.
It's not about the money anymore. It's what?
It's a dick measuring contest.
But between themselves?
Yeah. So Elon's got his own space program. So, of course, Bezos has to have his own space rocket. And then he launches 9 women into space.
Katy Perry is really getting run through the ringer for that one, too.
Which
Katy Perry, they like all turned on her. And I'm just like, I don't know.
A huge publicity stunt that really, the country's not in the greatest place.
No.
There's a percentage that are thrilled and happy. And there's a larger percentage that is just frustrated beyond belief and confused.
Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, because it's when eggs were super high. And
it's like during COVID when all the celebrities got together and sung Imagine. Yeah. And everyone was like, what the fuck is this?
It's just, they're tone deaf, I guess. Yeah.
Read the room. We don't give a shit about, okay, so, you guys are all telling us to just relax and enjoy life. Thanks. Fuck you. I ain't got a job now. I don't know how I'm paying my mortgage.
But see, but also even in this, if we get more personal with this, COVID, we did okay through COVID, but we worked through COVID.
Yeah.
Because we both were working jobs that we could continue to work.
Yeah.
So it didn't affect us in that way. It did affect us in the social aspect. There was a lot of, all the distancing and everything. And the kids were home for, oh man, how did they do that? 3 days they went, how did they go Monday through Wednesday, and then some kids went Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then you flip back and forth?
It was Monday. What was it? There's one day that they rotated each week. So Friday, we'll say. So one week you'd go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other group would go Tuesday, Thursday. And then the next week they would go Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The other group would go Monday, Wednesday. And then days you weren't at school, you were at home doing online classes.
Yeah, because I remember that. And I remember Calvin playing video games during one of his classes.
Yeah.
He would just put himself on mute. Well, they were all on mute. Unless they had to answer something. And then if he did, he'd just pause it, answer a question. I was like, Calvin.
That's where it all started.
But really, that was hard on those kids. It was. But
it was.
And it was something unexpected that all of us went through. And it really should have bonded us, but it didn't. It divided us immensely because of the whole mask thing. And it was
the guy that's in charge now. Stirring up shit. Stirring up just.
Yeah, it was him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Doing what he does.
Yeah, and I remember
being antagonistic. And
that whole time being so confused as to what he was like. I remember saying, we'd be laying in bed and I'd say, I'm just so confused. Like, I give him the hope that, maybe he's going to do something that's going to help us. This is going to work. And then I'd be really confused about, he'd talk and he would confuse me. His words confused me.
His words confuse words confuse him.
Yeah. And then now his words don't necessarily, I see he contradicts himself a lot when he's talking. So maybe that's what the confusion was coming from. Now I don't know.
There's an old saying, it's easier to tell the truth because you don't have to remember the lie.
It is. That's true.
So when you tell a lie, and then you have to repeat it. You have to remember all the details that you made up.
Yeah, because then you continually, when you lie once, you usually have to lie again to cover up something that was off about that lie. Yeah. And that continues. Yeah. So, this is the same guy. So the confusion is there still. I didn't feel about him like I feel about him now because I hadn't done enough listening to others. But I also don't want to get caught up in, like, we're not at the mercy of these people. We're not but we feel like we are. So when it comes to a job.
We're stuck in a bunch of systems that they've set up and controlled.
But are we stuck? That's the question.
Kind of, until we can actually wake up to what's going on. Because the whole work system is set up by them.
It is.
And the religious system loves it too because it benefits them. And
the religious system tries to take your one day off.
Yeah, and they work in unison with each other because they're both after the same thing, more money. So, you think about school. What is school for? Well, most people will say it's about education and getting people. It's a training program.
If it was about that, we'd be putting out some highly educated children at 12th grade.
It's a training program.
It is.
It's so you can start at the age of 4.
It's training you to be an employee.
Wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, get ready, go to school for 8.5 hours.
Yeah, and you learn how to go single file. You learn how to wait your turn. You learn how to not talk unless you're given permission to. And you don't go to the bathroom unless you're given permission to. Everything is controlled.
We'll tell you when you can have days off.
And we'll tell you when you can have. And even now, like.
And it gets you excited to look forward to them days off.
Yeah. Well, and they don't give what the thing is we give our kids, I know I'm the one that makes these decisions, but I give them mental health days. They get so many days every year. If they just don't want to go to school, they're like, I just need a day to stay home. We'll let them stay home.
Such a pushover.
No, because you need mental health days. How many times at work, it's nice to be able to say, you know what? I'm just going to take a day off. I need a day to kind of reset. You don't ever do that hardly, but you should, you know. You really should. You do in the winter. In the summer, you don't. In the winter, you take a lot of time off.
But I'm dealing with landscaping, so if I take a day off in the summer, it affects the next day greatly because I got to make up all the stuff.
Yeah.
Because stuff's growing all the time and I got to take care of it. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But in the winter, I don't have to worry about it. So I can just be like, fuck it. See ya. I'm off. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I try to do that during there and gets recuperated a little bit over the winter. But yeah, the system set this all up because it's benefiting them. They have people, they're going to produce and they're going to keep producing. And we got them already in a regiment. School prepared them for it. You know, and I'm talking more the K through 12 than the actual secondary education of college and whatnot.
Yeah.
That has, you know, it's a little different. You're setting your own classes, you're doing your own thing.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to go, you don't go all day.
Yeah.
You go for, you know, as I was talking about Reese, and she's graduating, I was like, college is very different. It's not all day.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you go Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes you go Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Sometimes you might go every day, but it's a certain amount of time. It's
you learn how
shorter.
to pick your schedule to benefit you.
Yeah. And your schedule works around, you get to kind of work it as within their offerings, you know, but it's very different. And you are learning, besides all the stuff, the crap that they make you learn and to lay the groundwork, which some of it's necessary, some of it's probably not.
Yeah.
You're learning something that you want to learn, right? You kind of have a passion for, hopefully. And the problem with that is they charge you in outrageous amounts so that it's, you know, you can't get the real education. And it's like, this is something that I really hate is, you know, like we have a 14-year-old and he thinks learning is bad, is boring. And learning is like that is what makes life fun.
Yeah.
Is learning something, right? Like you should always be learning something that excites you, that
they view it like we view work. Yes,
exactly. Because school and learning have been tied together, and school isn't really about learning. It's exactly like you said.
It's about training.
They're training you to become a worker bee, an employee, you know, to work for somebody else. They're not teaching you how to be an entrepreneur and work for yourself.
They're teaching you how to obey whistles and bells.
Yes, exactly.
So you know when to move and when not to move.
Yes, they're teaching you how to follow orders, to listen to authority without questioning it.
And church is doing the same thing.
And they call it learning, and it's not learning.
And you put that into evangelicalism, where they're teaching you obey on the first thing. So they're putting out literature and programs and all these different studies and Bible studies and everything else to obey on first command, respect authority. Don't question the pastor. Don't question your boss. Don't question, you know, just everything. Just take it all in. This is what you're doing.
This is what you do.
Your job is to be here every Sunday.
If you question it, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to, because that trouble is going to get you in a whole hell of a uncomfortable situation, so you just better not do it.
Yep.
So I would ask you, what would you say if someone says, so basically you're exposing what the school system is doing, the education system. So maybe Trump is right. It should be shut down. We should get rid of the education department.
It shouldn't be shut down. It needs to be revamped.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like, but some people will say that. And it's like, it doesn't need shut down. We need public education because without it.
You end up getting Trump elected.
You get
uneducated voters. They don't know history. They don't know.
People think that parents will do it. No, there are a lot of parents that are not going to teach their child how to read. I taught my kids how to read. It takes a lot of patience.
How many parents do we know that if they taught their kids would be like, oh, shit, you guys are going to be single-minded.
There are some,
in the world,
and that's the thing, like, this administration is kind of saying like, hey, they want you to go to like Christian schools or homeschool, right? So that you can use that money that where you would put it into the public school system. Now it's going to go to, you can use it however you want, which then we're not helping one another. First of all, you should be able to choose whether you want to homeschool or you want to put them in a private school or you want to put them in a public school. And I remember being a homeschooler, and we were, this was the part where we were conservative, because there's a part of homeschooling where we weren't conservative anymore. We were in this transition of like, what are we? But we were seeing all the problems with the belief systems we had been under. Yeah. And I remember thinking, we must have heard about vouchers under George W. Bush or something. Was he talking about something like that? Because I was like, yeah, it would be kind of nice for our money. Like, we don't use the public schools. We should be able to use that money towards homeschool books, because they're expensive. The curriculums were always expensive that I got. Oh, yeah. The books and the online thing, everything was expensive. But
yeah, it's not cheap to homeschool.
No, you can do it in a cheap way. It'd take a lot more work, because you'd have to do a lot of that stuff yourself, setting it up. And there were some courses that I did do that way, but it's a lot of work. But let's just talk about it. Should you be able to use that money? Like, is it fair that someone who doesn't send their kids to public school pays?
That's a free choice.
Or someone who doesn't have children is paying for children. I still would, because I want to pay for children. I don't just care about my children. I care about children, the next generation coming up of humans.
Okay, so for the argument of the people in private school, you choose to go to a private school. I went to private school my whole education.
Yeah, you did.
You did for a good chunk of yours. That was a choice my parents made.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure I was educated in a certain way, under a certain doctrine, so they sent me to these private schools. Fortunately enough, they were actually well-rounded schools. They weren't biblically based. They were Catholic.
What is that jab at? Who's that a jab at?
Well, a lot of people listening here were evangelical.
Yeah, not all of them.
They think private Christian school, and they think, all right, your school, you would have, the last one you went to, you had 3 hours of temple or whatever, chapel for your school day.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was taken away from reading, writing, and arithmetic. But that was more valuable to sit there and dance and wave flags and laugh and do all that ridiculous shit than actually educate. But that was the choice your parents made for your school. So should they get reciprocated for that? I don't think so. You have that choice. If I want to spend, it's an investment that I want to put in.
They're saying everybody has that choice. So what they're saying is I should be able to take my money and I can choose then to put it towards the schools that my kids are in.
That would be great. That if everyone that had kids in school age got $5,000, a coupon or whatever, and you turn that into your school. And if it was a public school, they'd get that $5,000. If it was a private school, they'd get that $5,000. So then
schools would be competing to be the best education place, which is true. Just kind of like private schools kind of compete for that now.
What's going to happen is going to be true capitalism. And instead of wealth disparity, you're going to have education disparity. Because in a poor community, in a big city, there's pockets of, less fortunate people that just don't make as much money. Cheaper housing, cheaper neighborhoods. Everyone understands this. They're not going to be able to drive their kid to the school to the rich neighborhood that they want to go to. Right? So they're going to put their money into that. But a few of them might, and they might come together. So this rich school is going to get more money because more people are going to come into it, because that school's already got all the resources into it because it's been well funded by its community that's around there.
And if you are now not putting your money in the public schools are getting even less money, which means less teachers.
Are going to get less students, which means less money, which means a less well-rounded education because everyone's going to go to these richer schools. So you're going to have more disparity in education going on in that. So
do
I
you
get
think
the point of
a lot of people will do that, or do you think? Do you think most people will though? Most people, I think, would just
our town, the school our kids go to, in our neighborhood school. Okay, so we're not putting our kids. Our school is one of the better ones in there for affluency. Okay, and it's got a well-funded. It's a well-funded school compared to some of the other schools in town. People from these other schools in town were flooding into the school. They had to close down enrollment because there's too many kids coming in. They couldn't house all the kids that wanted to come into the school our kids were going to. So you had what our last 3 kids had to be in the school area, the allotted zone that was mapped out for our school, which we fell in. So we were automatically allowed in the school. And if you weren't in that, you had to have special reasoning to get in. And you had to apply. And a lot of them kids got denied because some other kids got picked.
It was too many, yeah.
So that's what will happen if you have checks. That school had 2,300 kids in it? Something like that here in the last few years at the highest point. And then the other school we could have gone to, because we're right on the border, had 800 kids in it. So that school with 800 kids getting $5,000 per kid compared to the school with 2,300 kids.
Wow.
Which school's going to end up doing better?
Because they're going to have better supplies. They're going to have better, they're going to have probably more teachers because they can pay them. Wow.
So that's why you have to have this even distribution around to try to keep it equitable. And the system's not good in this either because is
it done that way now here?
Well, how it's done is that
it's property taxes here.
Property taxes, and that's pretty much nationally. Property taxes pay for a lot of the school system.
Which that's not right either, because then you're going to get.
You take a town like Omaha.
Yeah.
You have Omaha, proper, and then you have all the suburbs: Elkhorn, Millard, Papillion, Bellevue. They're different districts than OPS. So Elkhorn is a richer part of the Omaha metro area.
Okay.
Higher house prices up there, more real estate tax, more money going into that district. So it's a bunch of rich kids that are getting better stuff for their schools because the houses are worth more there.
They're probably getting access to better books.
Yeah. You can go into Omaha.
They're getting a better education usually.
In Omaha proper, it's an older town. So the houses aren't as expensive in a lot of areas. There's neighborhoods and pockets that they're, multi-million-dollar homes. But there's a lot of $150,000 homes too. So the property taxes aren't as much coming into Omaha per house as it is in like Elkhorn or Millard. So them districts outside are getting more money just because of the nature of where they lay and the residents that live there. So it's not great on how it's working right now because you don't have, if you live in a rich neighborhood, you're going to have better schools because your houses are worth more. So property taxes, you're going to pay more on property tax, because if it's a 2% tax for education, 2% of a $100,000 home or 2% of $1 million home, which is going to bring you in more money.
Yeah. Big difference.
So that's why a lot of these schools end up doing better in a lot of education, athletics, all this other stuff, because they just got more money to deal with. So, there's still disparity in it, but I think if you did vouchers, it'd be even more. And they say, then people, if they wanted to go to private schools, then they can go to private schools. Well, the private schools cap their enrollment.
And they might be at max already.
I had to apply to go to my high school.
Yeah.
And I got accepted in. I had good enough grades and good enough reputation to get accepted in.
Yeah.
There was a lot of kids that didn't get accepted into my high school. We only took At that time, 250 kids a year
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
out of the whole city of Omaha. 250 boys because it was an all-boys school.
Yeah.
So you had to apply and get accepted, and then you were able to go there. So now everyone has $5,000 check, and everyone wants to go to this private school with that because that's going to help me pay for this education. We're still only taking 250 people. Or if we bump it up to 300, maybe we'll raise our tuition $500 or $5,000 a year too.
So now you have more you're going to have to pay.
So that coupon is just going to basically take care of the increase.
That's really what some people are saying too, that it's just it's really not going to, more people aren't going to do it because they're not going to be able to get in. And it's just a coupon for wealthy people. It's another tax, like a tax break. Yeah. It's another break that they get. Yeah. Instead of.
It's a misconception thinking that these enrollments are unlimited at all these private schools. They're capped, and it's a strict cap. Mm-hmm. The Catholic private high school in our town has a strict cap, and they do it because of athletics. They don't want to be in Class A. They want to be in Class B. The coaches wanted to go up.
But the parents didn't want to.
Did not want to because they didn't want to compete in that Class A. They wanted to compete in Class B. So
why? Because Class A was more talent.
Honestly, it's not much different.
It's not.
But they thought it was. They thought because they used to win titles in Class B. Mm-hmm. And they weren't in Class A, but they had just a dip. And the problem was that they moved up. There are now 900 kids in their class, in their school, competing against schools with 2,000 kids. That's tough to compete against. But in Class B, you're competing 900 to 900. Mm-hmm. But in Nebraska, there's a rule, they set a number, whatever it is, 450 boys. If you go over that 450, if you have 451, you're a Class A school automatically. Mm-hmm. And if you're over 450 girls, you're a Class A in girls sports automatically. So what they did was we are taking 445 kids, boys, and 445 girls, and that's it. Mm-hmm. We will not accept anything else.
Okay. So unless that changed, they're not going to change that.
Yeah. So these schools set their enrollment numbers because one, room, that's all they have room for. And two, they don't want to deal with it. They want to have to hire more teachers and hire more.
It's a big undertaking if you take in more. Yeah.
So just because you give all these vouchers out doesn't mean that the private schools are going to be like, come on,
flooded in with people. Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, we ain't changing anything. We're still taking that 300 kids each semester.
And then you got the parents who then feel like their kids are not going to get the best of education because they think the only way is with the school they go to. And, even though that's silly, it's what a lot of people fall for. Yeah. And then they think their kids are at a disadvantage. And maybe it can come across as a disadvantage, but there's other things that are important about school that they can take away from, that it's not just book smarts. Yeah. And you can get book smarts anywhere. Let's be honest. You can teach yourself almost anything nowadays.
Yeah. And the kids do. They learn a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Just off playing on the computers and whatnot.
Yeah. Being on the internet, talking with their friends all over the world sometimes.
The thing that I noticed too in a lot of the schools, the school our kids are currently at isn't as diverse. But the middle school our youngest went to was extremely diverse. Mm-hmm. So it broke down a lot of cultural walls.
Well, and he got so used to that now he went to this non-diverse school and he can't handle it. He doesn't like it. He thinks he can hear racism just being, he doesn't like it. It's not diverse enough. And so we are having to switch him because he's just miserable.
So it gives you a chance to be diversified inside your community. But the private schools don't have to necessarily do that.
No, they're not diverse. My goodness, I think back to my school.
Yeah, it was as white as the Mayflower.
Well, there maybe was one person that wasn't white.
Yeah. And, just think about that too. Think about the churches you go to. There's no diversity in church. The last church we went to, we had one black couple in there?
Yeah, they're very, kids. And you ever notice that there's black churches?
Yeah.
And then white churches. It's like there's still segregation in the church, as much as people like to say there's not. I mean, maybe these mega churches are a lot more mixed together, but in certain areas, like here, there is some segregation going on. Because I've been to a black church and there wasn't very many white people there. And I've been to white church, or the church I grew up in, and there was very few. It was noticeable if there was a black person.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Like, that's in Christianity, it's still not.
But I mean, there's a lot of more problems with the whole thing, because you're not seeing other cultures, other people. Then that allows for racism and bigotry to come in, because you don't associate with these people. Because
the environment, you can turn them into an other.
Yeah.
You can, and that's the same with like LGBTQ. If you keep them out, you can easily create an enemy out of them, because you're not up close to them. You're not friends with them. And so you can say all that you want about, you could tell the people anything you want to tell them and make them so afraid of them, they won't go up and ask. They won't get around them. They won't become friends with them. They will shun them, and they'll believe what you say, because we've talked about it before. You know, a lot of these religious places, they're just hypnotizing you. And then hypnosis is just a high state of suggestibility.
Yeah.
So you are so suggestible when you're in that state. They put you in that state, and they do it weekly, if not more often than that. And it's like hypnosis, the more you do it, the more effective it is, that's why we tell people, like, in sessions, I'll record the session. I'll be like, listen to it a few times this week, daily if possible, because it strengthens that programming over and over. And we're, in a session, we're trying to program what they want. But in a church setting, you're being programmed by whatever your preacher or pastor wants.
Yeah.
And that's just, and maybe they're a great guy, but I don't want somebody trying to control me without my intentional input.
For as many great guy pastors there's just as many narcissistic sociopath pastors out there.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That are, you listen to me. Yeah. You do not question a man of God. I mean, how many times when you'd say something about Kenneth Copeland, would your mom be like, you don't say that about a man of God.
Oh, my God, yes.
It's like, is he a man of God? He looks like he's directly related to the devil himself.
He looks like he might be the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you couldn't say anything, because they take that verse where Elisha was, the kids made fun of him for being bald, and bears came out and mauled these teenagers.
None of these guys are Elisha.
No, that's true. But there's something up with that story. The children would be ripped apart for making fun of somebody for being bald. That's not justice. Okay. That's insanity.
I think there's some justice involved in that.
Okay. You're not technically bald. You do buzz it. You're balding.
I have a landmass right here.
You have one of those hairstyles, though. That would be so weird.
If I grew it out, I'd have a tuft right here.
No. Oh, God.
I would curl it.
No.
I'd do the Superman curl down.
You could just wet it, like hairspray it a bunch, and then do like a little spiral.
And then fill up that space right here. And then a little hand. It'd look like a picnic basket.
A little handle. Yeah, it would. You could paint. You could get a tattoo of flowers on the part right here. Yeah, and then have the flowers coming out like bangs. It would be leaves. You could do a tattoo like that. I don't know if I'd want to walk around with you like that, but
you wouldn't. You'd laugh one day, and then you'd be like, "Sorry, we're getting a divorce."
I'd be like, "Throw a baseball cap on forever. Let's just sew it to your scalp." Anyways.
Anyhow, so yeah, these systems are the issue, because they perpetuate this. It's what's been put into place. It's not natural for us to wake up, force ourselves awake every morning to go and service another person's
rush, especially to rush. Now that I'm with what I'm doing now, that's one of the things I love more than anything is my mornings are not rushed. They can be a little slower, because I do better when I have a slower start to the day. When I was a bookkeeper and I had to be there at 6 every day, especially once I had our first, that was so hard. But it was just brutal. I hated that. And you still do it. I don't even know how.
Yeah. I remember sitting up in the office and I'd be like, there's Candy walking in, and I'd look at my watch, be like, it's almost 7:00.
I don't think I came in
There was a
late.
few mornings you'd come.
Did I?
Yeah, you're like, it's Tuesday. They don't need any. There's no bank pickup today. Everything's fine.
Mostly what I remember doing is
rushing through everything, getting done as quick as possible.
Yes, that's what I would do. I would skip my lunch and everything because I didn't care. I just want to get the job done and get out. I did not want to I worked with a couple ladies at the time, and there was one, and she always wanted to let's take a lunch. I'm like, no, I want to go home to my baby. I don't want to be here. I just hated those. That was the lady you
thought was a man.
No. That was not that one. Yeah.
Oh, the younger one.
Yeah.
That's still there.
The lady.
Here's the story.
No.
So there was this woman. She was an older woman, probably 60?
Probably.
Okay. And
sweet lady
had some hair on her upper lip.
Yeah, I didn't know. I guess that's something that I'm going to have to watch out for in perimenopause. Who knows?
So that was there. So there were some thoughts already. Okay. And then Candy went into the bathroom one day and heard someone peeing.
No, she was in the stall next to me, and her feet were pointed towards this toilet. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And then I heard a gushing sound like a man peeing, right? And I was like,
well, the first thing you did was run out there and call me.
And then I was her shoes, and I was like, she's a man. I think she's a man. Because then the mustache, everything was clicking into place. And then I found out she had like a colostrum bag or whatever it's called. Colostomy bag. Yeah. And I was just like, colostrum, isn't that's the pre-milk when you're nursing. Colostomy bag.
A little different.
Yeah. And then I felt awful because she's sweet. She was a very sweet lady, but I was young and stupid, and I learned something, not to make judgments, and still had to learn that lesson over and over again. Still learning it.
Yeah, we learn it every day.
But that's
how we roll. But the system is the problem because it's perpetuating this whole thing on us. It's forcing us. It's training us up from young age.
Okay.
To do it. And then we just fall into place saying this is what it is. I made the joke to Reese the other day. She's graduating next week.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm going to be done with school. And I'm like, yeah. And then you get to start working full time. So enjoy that for the next 50 years.
Okay, see, stop with that joke. Because we want different.
Yeah.
So that leads me into the way I want to close it out, not on the problem. We've talked about the problem. We have to be solution oriented.
Yeah.
What are the solutions to this? Can it be solved? Can we change it? How long will it take to change? It's probably going to take a few decades.
It's going to take a while
to fully change.
But honestly, I think it's something where we just have to learn from other countries and how they've done it.
I think some of it is shifting. I've heard a lot of people say, like,
there's some businesses that move towards it. You think of something like Google that has more of their campus is more relaxation oriented. So, they expect if there's someone's working on something, they get extremely stressed out to go down to this playroom and play ping pong or something like that to relax.
Mm-hmm. Because that does, when you walk, it's just like when you lose something, you get really, really frustrated and you're looking everywhere and you can't find it. But if you take a break from it, you kind of relax, your brain will bring it to the surface. So then you find it, or, you just happen to find it. So you need those breaks.
Yeah. So there's some companies that are starting working toward it, and they're getting highlighted in how they do it. Like Costco's kind of taken a little step that way in how they treat their employees. They treat their employees quite well with wages and benefits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as
they have a low turnover.
Yeah. As companies start seeing this being positive, because you have people that are that do not like working for Amazon. They do not like working for Tesla.
Any place that has a high turnover rate, there's a reason for that. And it's not because all kids don't want to work or whatever. There's something that job is doing that is not good to the people.
So you got places like Tesla where everyone has to work like Elon Musk.
There's a Tesla here. Did you know that?
Yeah. So Elon is on ketamines and all sorts of other stuff to just keep him zipping around the place. So he stays at work, sleeps there overnight, takes a 2-hour nap.
And he expects everybody else to.
So that everyone else has to follow in suit.
And look at his home life, though.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the home life you want?
Yeah, the only reason he's hanging around his kid is because he's a bullet shield.
Yeah, didn't he artificially inseminate everybody that he got pregnant? I mean, he only had one of those children.
There's a rumor that he tried to get a member enlargement. So he wanted to get his...
Okay, we don't know if that's true. Don't spread it. Okay, stop spreading that. We do not know if that's true or not, and that's not our business.
Artificial insemination would be pertinent in that.
But I think...
He's got a knuckle in it. It's like a finger.
Stop. Ew. Stop.
Like chewed up.
Stop it. We don't know.
So anyways, but places like that, people don't like working at. So people, there is a high turnover rate.
But then they say, then the owners of these places are like, it's people don't want to work. And I hate hearing that about this younger generation because it's not, I guess I just look at our kids. Our kids are good workers and they're told that all the time.
And that's the thing is they're starting to hear things of these other employers, newer businesses coming up. They're like, wow, they're actually taking care of their employees a little better. So if you start seeing a trend of this, of new companies opening up that take care of the employees and people leaving to go work for them and leaving these other places are going to start bitching like, no one wants to work anymore. They want to go take it on Easy Street over here.
Yeah.
No, they want
to be treated. They want to enjoy their life. They don't want to, they want to actually be able to live their life and do their job. Yeah. They want to do their job because they do want the money that they get from that because it helps them enjoy their life more. But they don't want that to be the centerpiece of their life. There are more things in life than just going to a job for 50 years from 9 every morning, which a lot of times you gotta commute, you gotta get up, you gotta get ready. So if you think about it with your job, how often have you seen the kids go off to school? That's a rare thing. You don't get to, you won't know much of how that morning looks. Yeah. You also are not here a lot of times when they come home. You are with the youngest but you've had times in the past where you don't get to see them when they come home necessarily. So it's just like the things that men don't even understand. Not just men because it's women too, but it's like those things are stolen from you. Yeah. You're not going to get them. Yeah. Which, not that you have to see your kid go off to school or come home, but those are important moments in a way.
And it's one of the things to look at too is your boss isn't going to be at your funeral giving you your eulogy.
No, your boss won't even care. He'll just hire another person unless he becomes your friend. And that's different. He's just going to hire somebody to replace you. You're replaceable, but to your children, you're not replaceable. That's, and yet we pour so much of our energy and our time. We make sure boss is happy and neglect, husband or wife or children for boss.
Talking like a caveman. We make boss happy, neglect wife, husband, child.
Did you say I'm talking like a game?
Caveman.
Oh, caveman. I was thinking of those games that you see the kids play. Sometimes they have a bubble. Make wife happy. Make boss happy. Wife sad. Those are the old games that we used to play when we were kids.
Yeah, Moses and the...
You have to walk up to the character and then a bubble comes up and they say something and then it's like, and it types out.
Yeah. Your favorite game was Exodus.
That's not that. No. There was a Christian game that my sister played. Yeah. Was Quest a Christian game? I think it was called Quest or something. Remember. I don't know.
Anywho, we better wrap this thing up. So, I guess we don't have a whole lot of solutions. I think the solutions are starting to present themselves.
But is there something that the common person, like what can we do? What can you do?
I think if you just start awakening to it and become woke on the issue, we're not meant to do this. Our bodies aren't meant.
Something's wrong and it needs to change. And if you start to think it needs to change, you'll start talking to other people about it. And as they start to realize things need to change, then the more people realize it, the more we're going to shift that direction.
Maybe it's because my old ass is realizing it now because of all the cracks and crinks I get every morning.
It's so funny because I think that you realize this because I don't know if I mentioned this to you not too long ago because I've noticed this for a very long time. And then I mentioned it to you in a passing moment. I think we were in the car and I just said, that's what they're doing with school. And after that, you did a TikTok post and now you read it. It's like, I think it hit you a certain way where you hadn't realized it before.
You're like a pastor trying to plant seeds.
I thought you got it. But then the way you ran with it, I was like, this is something just hitting him just now that this is what's going on. But I've realized it because someone else told me for a while, but I was just like, well, what do you do about it? But it is true. The more of us the more of us that believe it, that's when consciousness starts to shape and change and shift things, and it's progressive rather than conservative.
And I think more people are, because you're seeing the new businesses develop. People are starting to be
even in spite of
what's happening
in spite of who's in charge, who thinks they're in charge anyways.
Yeah, and you see stuff happening in Northern Europe and things like that, where it's like, man, these people got it. They're doing all right over there. A lot better than what's happening here. Mm-hmm. And even Trump admitted to it because he had his big announcement. Remember?
I never heard what it was. What was it?
He's going to lower medication prices by suggesting to the pharmaceutical companies that they need to lower medication prices.
I mean, yes, that's true, but that was his big announcement.
That video I sent you when he was talking about his big fat friend that gets the fat shot.
I don't think I saw it. There's a lot of videos I haven't seen yet.
Jon Stewart was going on that. He's like, I got a friend, and he was over in London, and he's a good businessman, a real smart businessman. But, he's a little overweight. He's fat. He's really, really, really fat. And he gets the fat shot.
Is he talking about insulin or something?
I don't know.
What is he talking about? He keeps
going on and on. He says when he's over in London and he didn't have enough of his fat shot, so he went, and it's not working.
Insulin. Fat shot?
Goes,
oh my God.
And he calls me up and says, I need to get the fat shot. And I said to him, it looks like you haven't been using it all this time.
Did he say that?
Something like that.
Oh my God.
He goes, and I bought some over here in London and it's $34. You know how much I spend in America for this?
Yeah, it's insulin.
$1,200.
It's insulin, yeah. That's sad that he calls it that too, because
I think he thinks insulin. If it is insulin, he probably thinks it's a weight loss drug.
He probably thinks
it's like Ozempic.
Yeah, because he said if it looks like you haven't, because it's not about weight. It's diabetics sometimes gain weight, but that's not all diabetics.
Yeah,
that's oh my God.
So, but there's a reason why it's $35 in London and $120 or $1,000 here.
It's way. I agree that prices need to be cheaper, but how about we deal with helping us become healthier people, healthier, happier people, so we're not needing those medications?
That's a subject for a different day.
Pharma.
You don't want to be opening up a Pandora's box to get in. We're at the end of this episode.
I know.
We don't need to start something new.
Don't get me irritated on that subject.
And you're just little pharma. You're little pharma girl out back.
I am, and I burnt my back today.
You did. She's
it's itchy. Lobster. I wish I had a back scratcher right now, but whatever.
I'm sitting over here. Sorry.
Just
anywho.
Reach.
So to try to conclude this again, I think there is a movement. It's just people have to wake up to it and realize what's going on. Realize, I am kind of sore and exhausted and tired, and this is getting tedious and draining.
And it's natural that our kids hate going to school.
Yeah.
It's natural. It's because notice how when they're younger, they kind of like to go.
Yeah.
In first, second, third, fourth, those ages. It's when you get older, they don't want to because it's not about learning anymore. I mean, there's some learning going on, but it's just forced. Yeah. You need this. I'm going to shove this down your throat. Rather than helping them learn how to learn, they tell them what to know. You know what I'm saying?
So you start waking up to it and seeing what's going on.
Start understanding.
Seeing movement. We're starting to see companies open up. We're starting to realize that other countries are doing it better than we are. The other countries are happier and healthier because of what they're doing over there and the work weeks that they're given, and the freedoms that they're allowed to have with their own time.
I guess what a person could do is educate yourself on that.
Yeah.
Educate yourself on what the average day in some of these other countries look like, where they are happier and healthier. Look at the countries like Sweden, Norway, France, Italy, those kind of places where people are supposedly countries. Happier. It's a proven thing that they are happier. And like,
they're better educated.
What are they doing? Yeah, and they're better educated. So what are they doing? And then ask yourself why we're not. Yeah. And what are some ways that we can shift more that direction so that we can get to that point?
Confronting the pride. Because what's preventing us right now, when you mention this, fuck them, we're better, USA, USA, USA. So when you have this nationalistic pride that ain't no one better than us, red, white, and blue, fuck you.
We think all the other countries like use propaganda, and we don't realize our own country uses propaganda on us all the time.
And you realize you go over and you see this little Swedish kid that speaks 4 languages fluently at the age of 8.
Yeah, these kids that can speak different language, whatever.
Knows more math than, this redneck son. There's a reason for it.
And yet the redneck, I don't like to call him that, but, let someone here who's...
You can call him because you are one.
I am, kind of.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, the back of it is.
No, I lost my train of thought.
That happens.
Oh, that kid who's undereducated and not by any fault of his own, undereducated will be more arrogant because I think the more educated you get, wisdom can kind of come with that. Not always, but it should, especially with age. And you realize how little you know in the grand scheme of things, right? The more you know, the more you realize how little you do know. But yet someone who's uneducated thinks they know everything. And that is what's so frustrating with a lot of these conservatives is they are such bubbles.
And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah. You like to throw that one out a lot.
Yeah.
And I always have to look it up every time, but remind me what it is again.
It's the people that are least educated on a subject are the most confident people on a subject or tend to be the least educated on it. And the more educated you go, the lower your confidence gets.
Yeah. Boy, is that true.
Until then there's a point where you get to a certain education and your confidence goes back up.
But it's now backed with
expert in this area.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the expert isn't never as high as the
person who thinks they... Yes, that's so sad. That is so sad, but it is. I've seen it play out time and some of these MAGA people, they just think I'm like that one podcast that I send you clips of, the Necessary Conversation. Yeah. Oh my God, the dad on there, I can't, he reminds me of my own dad, but oh man, I can't even. Anyways.
So, all right, folks, we tapped you long enough. So check out our website, danacan.com. It's got everything Dana Can on it. It's got Candy's website. It's got her blog, her hypnotherapy practice, her Substack, and all that good stuff. Subscribe to her Substack too once you click in there. Go to the top, give us 5 stars. We'd appreciate it. If you give us 5 stars, then the workday will drop down to 4 days a week, 32 hours.
Okay, you can't promise that. That's not the solution. And you'll get an extra 3
weeks of vacation a year.
Wouldn't that be nice? I think everybody should get probably a few days a month.
Yeah. So that'll all come with 5 stars. 4 stars, you'll have to work 7 days a week, 42 hours, and you'll only get time off for church on Sundays.
And you better go to church.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be docked in pay for the next week.
I mean, yes.
And then if you're on YouTube, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We appreciate it greatly. And I think that's all we got for you tonight. So
listen to us.
We are very opinionated, old and tired and sick of working. Please help. Bye.
Bye.